Hello everyone and welcome to UFOs Around the World. Today's video is one I thought I would never ever see. That is the ex-footballer Joey Barton interviewing David Icke. Now David Icke's recently been allowed back on YouTube. He had his account banned for about 5 or 6 years, something like that, maybe even longer, I can't remember. And I stumbled across Joey. I didn't even know Joey Barton had a podcast. He's got a podcast. I wasn't a massive fan of Joey as a footballer, but I kind of... he grows on me a little bit with his social media presence, I've got to admit that. But this, if he does stuff like this, I'm going to be a huge fan of his stuff. So his channel's called Common Sense with Joey Barton. And he's done like a 4-hour interview with David Icke. And he's shared 2 clips so far. And I'm just going to go through a few little segments of one of the clips that he's shared, because I found it very interesting. And if he's going to be talking like this throughout the 4 hours of it, it's going to be one of those David Icke legendary interviews, I think. So let's take a look at this, folks. Let's no more wasting.
Yeah, as I've researched this and others have researched this, that these entities are feeding off human energy. You remember in the Matrix when the Morpheus character held up a battery and said, the Matrix is a computer-generated dream world designed to turn humans into one of these, a battery, a source of energy.
Are they feeding off good energy or bad energy?
That it's very specific. These entities, because of what they do, because they're a bunch of prats and they give evil a bad name, they are in a low vibrational state. So to absorb energy from humans, it has to be low vibrational energy. And what it does, and so people who've researched this and experienced this long back, they've given it the name loosh, this low vibrational energy. And it's based on fear, anxiety, depression, anger, hatred. Not so much anger, that can be turned into a positive.
Everything this world is currently built on. Listen, I go through anxiety, I go through fucking stress, I go through depression. Everybody goes through that. You speak to somebody, they're either going through some anxiety, some depression, some stress. Even people that are rich, that don't have money worries and stuff like that, they're stressing about things as well. They're worrying about things. So, these podcasters don't have to be doing these type of interviews. They don't have to be doing all this shit in the background where they're, let's say, causing a stir and being called right-wing and stuff like that for some of the things they're saying. They don't have to do that. They can sit back and go and live in the nice luxury houses, so that they're feeling things that are happening as well. So usually, in the past, it's usually like if my castle's okay, fuck everyone else. We're not getting that. We're getting a lot of people speaking out, quite a lot of prominent figures. And it's interesting we said about the battery. Are we being used as some sort of energy stuff, being turned into a battery for some evil entities? And this has been spoken about, right, for years. He got his platform taken off him for many reasons, right? But it was laughed at. There was a Wogan interview where he got laughed off stage. Wogan invited him back onto the stage a few years later to apologise to him for mocking him live on TV. And let's face it, the stuff he says now doesn't sound as ludicrous as it did back in the 80s.
Positive emotion, but hatred, conflict, war, all these things obviously generate this low vibrational energy, because it's been long known by mainstream science that every time we think and every time we feel an emotion, we're actually generating an energy. We're generating a frequency, and that frequency relates to the nature of the emotion. And fear, which is the tool of oppression in this reality, is a low vibrational emotion. So if I'm looking at you and you're in a terrible emotional state, I can see by your facial expression and I can see by your body language that you're in an emotional state. What I can't see is the energy that emotional state is giving off, because that's outside visible light. It goes into this astral dimension.
Well, you hear people talk about auras. Some people can see auras around people and stuff.
It's all
like
part of it. Yeah. You go deeper into the field of the visual field than the normal visible light, you'll see things that will just bloody amaze you, because they're so different to the reality that visible light delivers to you. So that's going into the astral. And so every time there's a war, every time there's a conflict, every time there's a big row and there's kind of conflicts and hatred and all this stuff. We're generating this energy, and they're feeding off it, which tells you something about the world immediately. There is no incentive whatsoever of these other dimensional entities to have a world of love, of harmony, of peace, of appreciation, of mutual support. None whatsoever. They want a world, and they are generating through this global cult events that are going to generate this low vibrational energy. They want people in states of fear, of worry. Am I going to pay the rent at the end of the month? Oh my God, is my relationship going to survive? Is my job going to survive? You know what, AI?
It's so true what he's saying. It must hit home to people when they see this. Everybody needs to see this clip, by the way. So I'm going to stop at that part there. I'm going to shift to this part. This is in the same clip, but it's further on down the line. I don't want to play too much of it. It's his video, but this part is very interesting for me as well. So let's play this part.
Seen as left field, whereas now it's a lot more mainstream.
Yes, it is. And I met a lady in 1997, I think it was 97, 98, who had been a close friend of Princess Diana for 9 years until they fell out. And she told me, going one step back, I talked about the 12 separate people I met over a period of 15 days in America, 1996 time, 96, 97, that said they'd seen this phenomenon of someone in a human form turn into a reptile and then go back again. And I came back from America, and I had a meeting scheduled with a lady who said that she used to live with the warden of a place called Burnham Beeches, which is in the west of London. It's an area of copse and clearings and forests and stuff.
I think that's where Robin Hood was filmed or something like that. A lot of films have been made in that area, and it is quite a secluded area for these evil little pervs to do sadistic things.
And it's owned by the City of London, which is a big red flag because that's really massively that City of London so-called square mile is massively part of this global
cities
cult.
Within cities.
Oh, massive. So anyway, she said that she went out one night. Well, let me just come back one step. I go to see her because I want her to tell me about her experience of Satanism, which she'd had being brought up among Satanists. And we finished the conversation, which was very interesting. And I had a cup of tea, and I put my cup of tea down. I said, well, thanks for that. It's nice of you to talk to me. It's very interesting. And as I turned to walk away, I said to her, you know, I've some amazing experiences. I keep hearing people tell me they've seen people turn into reptiles. And by this time I've turned, and all I can hear in the background is, right? And she's holding her chest when I turn around. What's going on? She said, I weren't going to tell you that. She said, I thought even you'd think I was mad. So, because I haven't gone public on the reptilian thing by this time. And she told me of going through the clearing in Burnham Beeches, where she lived in a house, which I've seen in among the trees. She went through one night, and there was a light, and she crept towards the light and looked through, and she saw a circle of people in long robes. And the guy conducting this ritual was Ted Heath, who was the
Prime Minister.
He was then Prime Minister at the time she experienced this. And next to him was a bloke called Anthony Barber, who was his Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Not Rachel from accounts.
No, but ladies and gentlemen, this is how it works. This is the people that are telling you they're on your side. Anyway, she said, I'm watching. She said, and suddenly Heath transforms into a reptilian figure and grows by about 1 foot 2 feet. that is a common theme you find.
Yeah, it is. It's a common theme that they sort of decloak. People think that they transform, into a reptilian. They don't. They actually take the veil off what a human sees, so we see them in their real, their real skin. That's what apparently happens. So when people say, "How can someone just sort of like transform from me and just turn into a reptilian, like shapeshift?" It's not. It doesn't. From my research understanding, it doesn't work like that. They sort of take a veil off, and that's how you then see them. So they could, but basically they're projecting what they want us to see. So they want us to see maybe Ted Heath, or they want you to see me, Matt, as UFOs around the world. And then I can just click my fingers, put something, take it off you, and you can see me in my true form, which will be a reptilian. Which one day I'll do. I'll show you my true reptilian form. Yeah.
And all over the world, when people see people shapeshift from human to reptilian, the reptilian is taller. And she said, first of all, when he started speaking in a reptilian form, it was like the old transatlantic telephone line where there's big gaps between it, like he's coming from far away. And she said the thing that struck me most was that when the transformation happened, no one in the circle reacted. It was as if to them it was the most common thing that they've experienced, absolutely something they experience all the time. There was no, it was all very much as they expect. And I named in 1997, I named Heath as a Satanist, a pedophile. And the passage was read to him by a local journalist on the Isle of Wight, if you can call her a journalist, in the week of publication. And all he said was, David Icke must be mad. And there was nothing else. It took 17 years for allegations to appear about Heath, who was a absolute brutal paedophile. And Wiltshire police investigated and said if he was still alive, then he would be brought in for questioning on the evidence that we've seen. And that reminded me then of something I experienced. When I was in the Green Party in 1989, the European elections, the polls were showing that the Green Party was suddenly having a real surge in interest. And I was invited onto Sky News, their live election program, to talk about the results as they came in. So I arrived at Sky News, and I got met by this lady in reception, and she took me through to this makeup room. And the door of the makeup room was open. So I walked in, and I sat down, and she said, someone will be along in a minute. And she walked out. So I'm sitting there looking at the mirror, and something caught my eye just to my right. And I turned around, and just behind the door, which is why I couldn't see him, was Ted Heath, who'd just been on the program and was waiting to have his makeup taken off. And so I looked at him, and being a friendly chap, I said, "All right, mate, how you doing?" I couldn't stand his politics, but hello, how are you doing? And he turned, and he looked at me. And in all this experience, he never once said a word. Never said a word. He started at the top of my head, and he went slowly down like that. Like the thing that came to me as being scanned in some way. And then he goes to my kind of feet, and then he goes back again to the top of my head, and then turns and looks at the mirror. Never said a word. And then eventually the makeup woman comes in, and it's like, what the fuck just happened? Anyway, while he's scanning me, I'm looking at his eyes, and the entirety of his eyes turn black. Not just the pupils, the whites turn black. And I described it as like looking into two black holes. It was like I was looking through his black eyes into some other dimension. And none of the Betty Shine stuff had happened before at this point. It was all kind of an experience that was all kind of new to me. I had no way of explaining what I was seeing. And as I then, when I really started getting into this information, I kind of remembered that.
So If you see someone's eyes turn black like that, surely you'd say, excuse me, mate, why your eyes just turn black? Like, and why are you staring me up and down like you want to eat me like I'm a Snickers bar or something like that? So it's a great story, but surely you'd say something, right? It's only Ted Heath. You just say, listen, why's your eyes all black? What are you staring at me like that for? But I'll tell you what, we need more David Icke, and Joey Barton, well done for getting him. For 4 hours, man. Stop drip feeding us. Drop the full one. Although I can see why you are drip feeding it. Because you're getting a lot of views on it, because a lot of people want to see David Icke stuff. Even people that don't like him want to see his stuff. It's the way of it. So everybody, I will drop the link in the description. His channel's called Common Sense with Joey Barton. And all that information will be in the description, so you can go and check out the clips that he's put. He's put 2 clips up. The other clip I've not shared any, and that's called David Icke Says You Are Trapped. Now, I have watched that one, and he talks about the system we live in and stuff like that. And again, it's true. We all feel trapped. So I highly recommend people go and check this interview or these interview clips out. As soon as the big one comes out, I'll probably cover that as well and parts of it and stuff like that, and drop the link for people so you can head on over and watch that. Well done, Joey Barton, for getting him on. As always, eyes to the skies, because the next story could be yours. Good night, God bless, and I will see you on the next one.